Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Super Lunch Bros Podcast, episode number 64. I am Brendan. UFC Fight Night, Gane versus Volkov just happened this weekend. We had a boxing match with Vasily Lomachenko. We had a PFL. Might touch on that a little bit. Probably not. Kayla Harrison won. I can do that for you. Before we get started, make sure you like, subscribe. If you like what we're doing, if you like what I'm doing here, please tell somebody about it. Let people know, like, hey, we discuss MMA and the UFC, and then make sure you comment, interact. I'll respond to you. Like, I want to have a conversation. I love talking about MMA, so if you ever want to talk, comment down below. You can tweet at Super Lunch Bros. I usually comment about the fights, and I make kind of snide remarks about some things that other fighters and journalists put up. So other than that, let's get going. All right, we just had another fight night at the Apex, which we haven't really talked about it since they started doing it last year. The initial whole thing, we talked about the venue and how there's no crowd and all that stuff, but I think it really, and obviously every time this comes up, it is talked about. I just feel like I haven't thought about it that much until this fight again. The octagon is just like the small one. I don't know if you can do heavyweight title fights in a small octagon. I guess, you kind of you deal with what you got. Obviously, for any given scenario, you just the fighters adapt. They might train in a smaller octagon. It might be I don't know if they have access to the large one, in training anyway. So it might be how they practice. It's just, for me, it's one of those things where, these big guys clearly need more space to move, regardless of what type of fighter they are. It's just, it doesn't seem right with them in there. It looks like visually off-putting for me. All right. Strawberry, banana, and blueberry. Yummy, yummy. Volkov outlanded Gane in the first round. I thought they did about the equal damage in the first round, so I probably would have gone Volkov because of activity, beating out position, right? So Gane was forward pressure the entire fight. Volkov outlanded him and had more activity and did probably about the same amount of damage in the first round. I would have gone Volkov. Other than that, maybe Volkov wins round 4. I thought it was pretty close. Like, the fact that 2 judges saw Gane winning all 5 rounds is a little crazy to me. I figured they would have given at least, every judge would have given Volkov at least 1 round, regardless if it was the first or the fourth. It doesn't matter. It just at least 1. I don't know. Volkov looked okay. He just looked like he was kind of, I don't know how to put it. It looked like he was like he just couldn't get going. We've said that a lot the past couple of weeks, but he just looked like he couldn't get his game moving. Gane was it was either Gane was giving him too many looks and the pressure was throwing him off, and that jab, great jab by Gane. And the front kicks were able to keep the distance. Or not the front kicks. Gane was throwing leg kicks. Volkov landed a lot of leg kicks, and I thought he was doing fine. It wasn't a blowout. Gane clearly won the rounds, right? I probably would have given him the last 4 rounds, even though, for sure, 2, 3, and 5 were Gane's. But anyway, there's just this whole thing where these fighters look a certain way most of the time. Volkov versus Derek Lewis shows you what Volkov can do. Volkov versus Alistair Overeem. Even Volkov versus Curtis Blades in the later bits of that fight. He's a fighter. Volkov is a world-class fighter. He is. Without that stupid last-second loss of Derek Lewis, I suspect he would have already had a title shot by now. And now, it's another setback for him. So he's going to have to work his way back up again. He looks so good normally, and we see fighters do that where they look a certain way all the time and then they have an off night. And is it their opponent? Is it like that specific matchup? Is it just that night? There's so many variables and so many things that just go unanswered. It's hard to know unless they fight again. I'm going to chalk it up to Gane. I think he performed excellent. One little side note here. DC made a comment about how Gane was able to not post, frame. He's able to frame really well is what he said. He's like, Gane's one of the few guys. He's like one of the only guys in the UFC who's able to frame without ever poking people in the eye. First of all, he had already poked Volkov twice. There was a stoppage the first time. The second time was a warning. And then later on in the fight, in the final round with 40 seconds left, Gane jabs 2 fingers into the right eye of Volkov. So bad that the fight stops for a while and Volkov can't see for a bit. To which there's a warning, a hard warning, with 40 seconds left to go. Are you fucking kidding me? We just went over this last week. There's 40 seconds left in the fight. Take a fucking point. It's already happened twice. There was a stoppage, a warning the second time. Why is he getting 4 warnings? Because he had one pre-fight. He had one in the warm-up room. Got a warning after he poked him in the eye the first time. Poked him in the eye a second time, got a warning. And then poked him in the eye a third time. And he gets a warning. A hard warning. Why? This isn't even... I'm sorry, I cut the grass, so my nose is going crazy. This isn't even a judgment call to where, the position could have changed or it couldn't have changed and it didn't matter if his fingers or toes were in the fence or, that strike was accidental, and it doesn't, no, this isn't even a judgment call. He broke the rule 3 fucking times and got warned 3 times. Take the fucking point. Take the point. I'm just gonna keep saying this. I'm sick of watching fights and having people just get away with infractions. You're breaking the fucking rules. It's just as bad as if you missed weight, but now you have 0 punishment. I'm done. I'm done. Just watching these. The instant that shit happens, I'm always like, okay, well, this fight should have been scored this way. He's honestly, he should have had 3 points deducted. And now we're looking he still would have won on 2 of the scorecards. But now we're looking at a totally different fight. And that's what I mean. It's this kind of fight where it was a blowout. And even in my opinion, I think, not a blowout, sorry. Round by round blowout, right? So, not round by round, the opposite. A total fight blowout where, he clearly won all, 4 of the 5 rounds, in my opinion. Not a single round blowout where he was just far and away the better fighter in every single round. It's not even close. Each round, if Volkov had landed a big shot in any of the rounds that did anything to Gane, that round could have gone to Volkov. That's how, that's what I mean by these rounds were pretty close. So given that, a blowout type fight like this could have been made a lot closer because of all the fouls that were committed. That's how fucked up this is, letting people get away with this shit. And I'm not even faulting Gane in this scenario. He did what he did. He accidentally poked him in the eye 3 times. Hey, they should be more aware of their tools. I'm not mad at him because a point wasn't deducted from him. He has no control over that. Herb needs to do that shit. I'm sick of it. So Gane needs a title shot. Maybe he fights Stipe, but I don't think Stipe's... this is the thing, is Stipe wants the title again. Derek Lewis is fighting for the title next. Gane deserves a title shot, I would argue. And Blades was supposed to fight Rosenstruck, but he didn't. Volkov and Rosenstruck looks good. Blades versus Rosenstruck, run that, try to do it again, that'd be fine. I don't want to see Volkov versus Blades. That gives me nothing. I mean, I guess you could do Blades versus Gane. I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but I think Gane probably could get a title shot from that fight. It's so weird. You know, we've said it for years where you have 2 good wins in the heavyweight division and you could be in title shot contention. And the problem is so many people have done that now. So there's a bunch of people who have like a legitimate case for a title shot. It's crazy. And I would argue that it is just as shallow as it was before. I mean, it's more interesting. I mean, I would say it's better than it was like 5 years ago. But not crazy better. All right. Congratulations to Gane. I thought here's all that aside, I thought he looked great. Controlling distance, controlling the octagon, doing exactly what he wanted to do, taking almost no punishment. He looks fantastic. I think he's a fun matchup for Ngannou. You know, if he can do those things, manage distance and fight at his pace, I think Ngannou's going to have a lot of trouble. So if he can solve the Ngannou bomb puzzle where, you know, I got to dodge these bombs. Like Rosenstruck's idea was, oh, well, I'll just counterpunch him on the way while I'm moving back. Well, he landed 4 shots on Ngannou before Ngannou just knocked him out. So, I mean, that plan doesn't work. You got to keep your distance. You can't get in drawn-out exchanges with him because if one of those shots lands, you're done. All right, co-main event. Some other heavyweights. Sorry. A heavyweight and a bloated light heavyweight. Somebody who doesn't want to cut weight all the time. OSP versus Tanner Boser. OSP doesn't throw anything. He just doesn't. He's always fought like this. He's sitting, waiting for big shots. Doesn't really have a lot of activity. And his cardio's always been questionable. You know, I'm a big fan of OSP. I think he has some, like, really cool highlights. He's had some fun fights. But this fighting style is just not a winning formula long term. And we've seen that, right? We've seen, like, you know, he'll get a couple wins and then a few losses. It's just, this is, over an entire career, this kind of strategy does not work. I mean, I guess there are some exceptions. I guess Tyron Woodley made it work, right? But that I would argue that's a little different. One, it's at a lower weight class. But 2, his fight IQ is ridiculously high. And he had incredible game plans going in. So that plays a different part in his striking. Because he would, you know, pretty much stand on the fence, land a big shot, and then that was the whole fight. Little bit of controversy in this one. It looked like Tanner Boser grabbed the cage to get up. But on the replay, he didn't. He had his fist closed, and his knuckles went into the cage, and that's how he was. He pushed against it and lifted his weight up. I don't know if that's, like, I'm pretty sure that's still illegal because the rules are you can't pull, right? You can push off the cage, but you can't pull. But he lifted himself up, right? So by definition, he had to have put some downward force on it, pulling down, right? And he was able to lift himself up and get into position. I think it's less egregious. His hand was closed, and he was framing. I don't. It's less egregious. But here's the other thing. The big part of this is there was actually outrage. DC was mad about it. Everybody was talking about it. Oh, this win. Here's the controversy. Blah blah blah. What about last fucking week when this exact situation happened, but only the guy did it 5 times? Where was the outrage 2 weeks ago when this was happening? It happens nonstop, guys. It's frustrating watching fights, and like I guess if they weren't going to talk about it, we could still sit here and bitch and complain. But it's even more infuriating when they do notice it and then complain about it, but then selectively ignore it on other occasions. And I know it's a different announcing crew than last week, and maybe that's why they were hip to it this week and they were ready to explode if it happened. So maybe, I don't know. I just don't. I'm really done with the whole these rule infractions. I really am. It's the more I see them, the more I become like a hardliner. Like, it just needs to be a point every time. There's no these punishments and these warnings and like, oh well, like maybe with positional changes you don't allow them to change position. So if at any time they grabbed the fence and position changes in any sequence where that happens, the person who grabs the fence doesn't get to dictate where the fight goes. So, if they do it to get up off the ground, then, like, nope, back on the ground, go back where you were, get away. Now I would rotate them away from the fence even. Be like, now you lose the ability to use the fence. Or, maybe someone holds onto the fence to kind of reach around a person and hold on to the fence to lock them into it to stop them from getting out of the clinch. If that's caught, right? Okay, immediately, bam, stop, separate, no, get away. Like, you don't get to do that. And I've only seen that happen once, where it was like immediate like that, and it was in Abu Dhabi, Fight Island. I forget the referee's name, but he was having none of that shit. Now, there were other things about that where I didn't like they get on the ground and immediately he starts clapping. He's like, let's go, I want to see something. Mark Smith is really bad about that, stateside. He's awful when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like, anytime people stop moving for whatever reason, like, I take someone down immediately. He's like, all right, you got to work. I'm like, yeah, I just did. He's on the ground because I was working. Or when they're in the clinch and, like, someone drops down for a takedown and then they're waiting for some movement so they can take advantage of a mistake or a bad move by their opponent or anything like that. You got Mark Smith just barking, just come on, got to move, do some work. Ugh. So bad. Anyway, anytime someone grabs a fence, the action needs to be stopped immediately. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? If the fence is grabbed, the action is stopped, and the fighter who grabbed it loses whatever advantage they have, right? If they're up, if they use it and they get up, or even if they grab it, let go of it, and then get up, you're back down, man. You broke the rules. Get back down there. Do it again. Like, I know it sucks and it seems stupid, but there's how many times in the past just 3 weeks we've been talking about this now? How many fights have we talked about this? This is ridiculous. Eye pokes, groin strikes, 5 weeks, 6 weeks now, I think, in a row or something crazy. There's been a fight, at least one fight on the card that is negatively affected by the rules just not being applied properly or fairly, I would argue. It's absolutely unreal to see this shit. And here's We'll get to it. We'll get to it in another fight. There was another eye poke, a bad eye poke during last night. Anyway, I thought Tanner Boser looked great. OSP looked how he usually does. I don't know if it means anything for Boser. I mean, he probably still he's going to, stay in the UFC. OSP might be on his way out, frankly. I don't know how he keeps his career going. I wouldn't mind seeing him in the PFL or moving over to Bellator. I think he would have more success over there. And he'd probably make more money. All right. That's gone. Ioni Barcelos versus Timur Valiev. This is a bantamweight fight. Valiev was more active and landed more in the first round. There was so much activity in this fight, so much movement. And then in the third round, I think it was in the second round, Valiev got caught. Yes, he ended up on the ground after getting caught. I think he got caught with like a big uppercut and it put him down. And then the third round, Valiev just outworked him. Barcelos was trying to keep up, but he just couldn't. He couldn't catch him. Couldn't land any big shots in the third round, and Valiev just got it done. Great performance. Timur looked awesome. This is another one of these Dagestani guys. His striking looks good too, which is scary. Good grappling. He's gonna be a scary fighter at bantamweight. Another little bit of controversy. I mean, for me, one of the judges had it 28-28. Not consistent with the rest of the night. I know he had a knockdown, but it's not fucking consistent with the rest of the night. There's some other shit that drove me nuts. Anyway, Timur looked good. I'm glad he got the win. It was a 29-28. I mean, obviously, Barcelos got the second round. Yeah, there was no question there. But it was not a 10-8 round. I don't think the fight was ever in danger of being stopped. Valiev was with it, active enough, active off his back, and I don't think the fight was ever within seconds of being stopped. That's not a 10-8 round. If it is a 10-8 round, there should have been a lot more 10-8s this night. All right, so Pineda versus Fili. Featherweight fight. So Danielle is his name, Pineda, not Daniel. And Andre Fili. I still think that's my favorite nickname. I think I've gone back and forth, but that's my favorite nickname is Touchy. Andre Touchy Fili. That is the best. Fili looked phenomenal. Pineda had this thing where he beat Herbert Burns really bad, and people were high on him. And then he came out, looked all cocky against Cub Swanson, and just got smoked. Right? He landed some big shots, and he was damaging Swanson's leg, and everybody was just talking about how good Pineda looked, and Cub Swanson just closed the show. He knocked him out in the second round. In this fight, first of all, Pineda looks like he cuts too much weight. I don't know if that's affecting anything about his fight because he's tough as nails when he's in there, and he's obviously big and strong, but all that stuff doesn't do you any good if you just keep taking damage. It only gets you so far, and it's not and he's breaking. That's the problem. So in the second round, so Fili did a ton of damage in the first round, and then the second round, more of the same, just doing work, just beating the shit out of Pineda, and then Fili pokes him in the eye, accidental. Okay, it happens, right? It's a take a point. Again, I don't care anymore. Take a point. That's fine. It's probably going to be a tied round based off how this was going, or Pineda gets knocked out. No need to. It doesn't matter. Pineda didn't want to fight anymore because his eye was still shut. And, first, this one was weird. I don't know why Herb stopped it as soon as he did, because they were only 2 minutes into that given 5-minute frame. And I understand that the 5 minutes isn't for the fighter to recover. It's for Herb to decide whether or not the fight should go on. But why would you stop 3 minutes short of the 5 minutes? Why wouldn't you just wait till the 5? Be like, can you see yet? No? Okay, we're good. Because if he has 5 minutes to decide, and the only thing stopping him from saying to continue is this guy's eye is still shut and it's spasming shut, wait. And then wait until the end of it. I don't understand that. It makes no sense to me. No need to redo this fight, though. Pineda looked like he was a step behind. Feely was beating the crap out of him. I don't want to see that again. Let's move Feely up. Put him back in the top 15. Where was he before this fight? Bantamweight. Yeah, put him back in the top 15. Let him fight someone. Cody Stamen, Kyler Phillips, Marlon Vera, maybe Jimmy Rivera. Let's get him back up here. He really needs to fight someone in top 15. I mean, it wasn't a win. It's a no contest, but I wouldn't. I mean, he looked great. Also, Pineda has been a part of 3 no contests. That's a weird one for not that long of a career. Welterweight, the Dirty Bird, getting it done against Nicholas Dalby. Dalby looked great at the end. So, first of all, with 30 seconds into the first round, Means goes for a lateral drop takedown and then gets on top. He looked great on the ground. He looked smooth on the feet, precision, timing on point, all that stuff. And they kept mentioning about how Dalby's was breathing loud and his cardio must be bad and this and that. But he's breathing loud from the start of the fight. It's a breathing technique. You can tell. It's a focused breathing technique that allows you to maintain your heart rate, control of your breathing, and allowing your cardiovascular system to maintain not equilibrium but some consistency, even though your output may change. And you'd think with Paul Felder being a triathlete now, he would have some understanding of that, but him and DC were both like, wow, he's breathing real loud. Yeah, look what he's doing. He's doing it consistently, and it's not changing, and his output isn't changing. And then they finally caught on, I think, in later in the second round. They're like, oh, okay. I think this is just a breathing technique. Also, in the third round, Dalby caught Means and rocked him pretty bad. Couldn't close the show, though. Means managed to put him up against the cage and then wear on him and just win the fight on points. He looked great. I thought Means looked good. Dalby's a tough dude, too. He took a lot of damage, and he's also, he hits really hard. He's got good cardio. He's going to be a challenging fighter if he can manage to keep staying in the UFC. All right. Renato Moicano versus Jai Herbert. I mean, they talked about how good Herbert's striking was, and on the in the first round on the feet, he seemed to be getting the better of the striking, but Moicano just kept getting on top of him and getting mount. And then in the second round, it's the same thing. You just take him down and get into mount. And then he took the back, and he sunk in a rear naked choke and finished him. It was they talked about it a little bit. I don't know if Herbert was some guy that they were really high on or something. Anytime he did anything, they're like, wow, look how good his defense is from the bottom. Arguably, it was, so that's fine. And then they're like, oh, look at this. Look what Herbert's doing. Meanwhile, Moicano is just rolling into mount, staying on top. Oh, man, it's so silly. That's it for the main card. Let's go to the prelims. Looks like this one. The main fight, Kennedy Nchekwu. I didn't hear them pronounce it. They just kept saying Kennedy, so I'm guessing they had a problem pronouncing it too. Versus Danilo Marquez. Marquez was a backpack for 4.5 minutes of the first round, like he was Damian Maia. And I don't think I've ever seen a light heavyweight do that. And it was pretty incredible, actually. Kennedy really didn't do anything. He just sat there against the fence, and then It's so weird to me. This gets into it because, in the second round, Danilo kind of controls Kennedy again. Kennedy was on the feet and clearly getting the better of him later on, but Danilo was able to take him down finally and control him on the ground. Put in chokes and stuff. It's crazy to me that in the third round, when Kennedy lands a couple strikes and Danilo covers up, then they call it. I don't think it was an early stoppage. I think it's on par with how stoppages should go. But when you're on someone's back and they're not doing anything, if I'm just tapping him in the head repeatedly, how is that any different than me putting my arms up and defending against punches while standing? I'm still actively defending myself. Do you know what I mean? I understand that the punches can do more damage, but if the rule is to actively defend myself, that's what I'm doing by covering up. Because he was doing the exact same thing when Danilo was on his back for 5 minutes or more than 5 minutes of the fight, 7 minutes of the fight. I mean, whatever. Kennedy looks like he can hit hard, but he's going to have a lot of problems with people with cardio and takedown. He just... light heavyweight, he might be okay. Getting wins here and there. But it looks like he's going to have problems. Also, he's not he looks slow when he's moving. I don't know. Some of those things, he doesn't look snappy when he's throwing punches. They're just very plodding. Anyway, welterweight. Shavkat Rakhmonov, not Rachmanov. Rakhmonov versus Michel Prazeres. That dude is on shit, right? I think we all know that. He just lives in the middle of Brazil or something, and nobody can get him tested because, whatever, he is. Again, not that I care. It's just pretty fucking obvious. All right, yeah, he's welterweight, and he's 5'4". He's so short, but he's just got, all the muscle. Rakhmonov looks great. He's 14-0. Great grappler. He has 14 wins. 7 of them are submissions, and 7 of them are knockouts. He looks so smooth on the feet, and then on the ground he can do what he wants to do. He's strong. Normally Michel can move people around and kind of dictate where things are going when they get in the clinch because he's so strong. But Shavkat was doing what he wanted. And then in the second round, he throws a spinning heel kick, lands on Michel's forehead. You can see Michel's eyes kind of roll back a little bit, and he rocked him pretty bad with that. There's an exchange sequence, and then he puts Michel down on the ground, gets his back, and puts in a submission. Didn't even have both hooks in. You can tell Michel just didn't want to be in there anymore. Shavkat looks great, dude. At welterweight, he's going to be a problem. He is. I'm excited to see where he goes in a couple years. Let's move him up slow. Let's not just give him to Kamaru Usman because Usman's bored and doesn't want to fight other people for some reason. Let's give him a couple more guys and put him in the top 15 next. Would be a good fight for him. Not Ponzinibbio. Jing Liang. Damian Maia would be a fun fight. Damian Maia just coming off that loss. I don't think that's going to happen. Jeff Neal, maybe, but now we're moving to, and then Bilal Muhammad. These guys he shouldn't be fighting. Muslim Salikov and Sean Brady. Those are some guys maybe. I wouldn't mind seeing him fight. Yeah, I thought he looked so good. Jeremiah Wells throwing massive haymakers constantly and finally caught Warley Alves in the second round. Knocked him out. Marcin Prochnio versus Ike Villanueva. Prochnio was landing these leg kicks, and Villanueva couldn't move on his leg clearly, and it was obvious, and he kept landing the leg kick. And at the end of the round, like in the middle of the exchange, a punch was thrown at from Prochnio at the buzzer, and it landed on Villanueva, and he's like, "Hey!" I thought that was kind of funny because, like, I hear you'll see fighters react after the bell if they get touched or something. They're like, "Come on," or like, "What the fuck?" Or they'll get angry, but like he was just like, "Hey!" I thought that was hilarious. I went back and watched that like 4 times. The second round, landed some more leg kicks, and then he throws a left kick to the liver, and Ike just drops. He just drops down, can't handle it anymore. Really good shot. Julia Avila throws sloppy punches, but she hits really hard, and she keeps her head straight up in the air. So at bantamweight, she's going to get knocked out if she moves up. And I mean, that's not true. At bantamweight, she's got a lot of room to move before she gets up to Amanda Nunes. So, her being ranked 15 this weekend. Kianzad, maybe. Pena, Kunitskaya. Irene Aldana would probably give her problems. So that's the thing is, like, there's a lot of fighters on this list she could probably beat. I just, like, when I see that stuff, she's a great example. I say this almost every time there's a female fight on a card, unless it's like, some of the best in the division or strawweights. They tend to be a lot better. It's just like she's a clear example of how women's MMA just is not at the level. It hasn't been around long enough that someone with her skill set can be ranked in the top 15. A scrappy fighter who doesn't move her head off the center line and cannot throw punches really well and just throws like the sloppiest straight punch. I don't know how to explain it. You kind of just got to watch her fight. Like, she's not throwing 1s and 2s. She's throwing like 3.5s in like, square root of pies, like her own shit that she's made up. I mean, she got the win done. She got the submission in the third round. It is what it is. I thought I wouldn't read too much into it. Bantamweight's kind of a crapshoot anyway, until Nunes retires. Charles Rosa and Justin James. James looked okay, but Rosa just got really comfortable on the feet, even in the first round, and was able to get stuff done when he wanted to. And then Rosa, it was just tooling James the whole time. The only storyline from this worth talking about is James bet his entire purse on himself before the fight. And now instead of, getting, and maybe he's on a 5-5 or a 10-10 contract, like instead of getting that 5, the show money, he gets 0 because he bet all that on on himself to win. So, interesting thing. So, I don't know what the rules are because I have not looked them up because it hasn't come up that much in conversation. But can you bet on so obviously you can bet on yourself to win, but you can't bet on anything else, right? Because you can't bet that, it's going to be a knockout in the second round, because those odds are a lot smaller, therefore your return to be greater, and then you have massive control over it. Like, you could even bet on more, like the amount of leg kicks landed, the amount of head kicks. Like, there's other aspects of the fight that you can bet on. Like, will there be a glove touch? You can bet on that in some fights. But you couldn't do that if you're fighting. But you can bet on yourself flat out, I think. Which is, it makes sense. Logically, that makes sense. Because you're trying to win. But you can't bet on your opponent. Like, you can't bet on yourself to lose. Like, you can't hedge your bets. Which is weird when you think about it. Like, that would be like, buying 2 opposing companies' stocks, just in case one of them went down. You're like, oh, well, then this one gets all their business, so I'm good. Like, I'll bet on my opponent just in case. And, I mean, think about it. Like, losing in the UFC, you can only do that so many times, right? I guess if there's like just a really big mismatch or something, like a 1400, like a plus 1400 underdog, and you bet your entire purse on that person, like that's a lot of money. So if you throw that, and that's the thing is like, how do you guarantee that you didn't throw it? I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that like it was a storyline where he bet on himself and everybody like the whole thing was like, I can't believe he's doing that. Not, this is really weird that you're allowed to bet on your own fights. And to open the card up, we had Yancy Medeiros versus Damir Hadzovic. Hadzovic looked real good, but he kept throwing these long, like after the first. So here's the thing. He was getting the better of Yancy on the feet. Fine. And he was landing big shots. Fine. But after the second flurry where he like landed all these big shots in a row against Yancy, you figure he would understand that that's not going to work and he should probably just pick his shots, land a couple big ones. Pick his shots, land a couple big ones instead of these big flurries. Because it didn't work. And then in the third round, Medeiros got on top and was dominating Hadzovic because Hadzovic was so tired. He was on top of him, swinging him around, like getting his back, like wailing on him, hits him on the feet, gets him back down, and then with like, I think it was 12 seconds to go, locks in a rear naked. It goes under the chin with 7 seconds left, and Hadzovic is like just holding on for dear life. You know, that's not a winning strategy to just keep, it wasn't working. Okay, clearly your striking is better. Clearly you're landing the big shots. But if your strategy was to knock him out with those and get the fight over with, it's not working. Please stop doing that. And because of that, you know, he got really tired. You know, if you can't make that adjustment, I don't know if you have what it takes to be in the UFC. Because you have everything else. Like, clearly, Hadzovic is an amazing striker. He's a tough dude. He has good cardio. He doesn't have bad cardio. He just blows his wad on like these long extended combinations of landing big shots trying to get this guy out of there. And like if you do that once, right, and the guy doesn't go out, all right, you know, maybe it was not a fluke, but you know, I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get him on the next one. Land the flurry and he doesn't go out of there. And then I'm compromised now and like watching the fight, he clearly was, and he couldn't keep up his pace the way it was before those couple flurries, and now he's compromising the rest of his fight game because of that. Now, I'm not a fighter, and I shouldn't have to preface this every week, but this is just how it is. I'm not a fighter. I'm not in his corner. But even to an idiot like me, it seems like I would change my game plan. Maybe don't go into those long exchanges and try to knock them out with those anymore because it's not working and it's getting me really tired. You know, the fight's not going to get stopped, and I'm not going to be able to do that very often. I'm not going to be able to do it a lot. I'm not going to keep those extended things aren't going to happen anymore because I'm getting tired. And it's compromising the rest of my game and allowing him to get back up, you know, on the scorecards or, you know, get confidence, allowing him to get shots and even like in the third round putting me on my ass, right? So hopefully he goes to the back. He goes to the back to the drawing board and learns from this. Like, oh, when this happens and there's a fighter doing this, maybe now I just pick my shots, take my time, be patient in the corner, like go to the body, go to the head, go to the body, take my time, that kind of stuff. Instead of just like, bah, 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 bah. Oh, he didn't get finished. Okay, I'll do that again in 10 seconds. Bah, 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 bah. Oh man, now I'm really tired. Oh. What am I going to do for the rest of the fight? I'll just keep doing it. Bah, 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 bah. And, like, yeah, it's bad because Yancy's taking way too much damage. But, you know, if that position had been reached, you know, 10 seconds prior to when it did, Hadzovic loses that fight. And it was realistic that could have happened because they were on the ground. So, given a different set of circumstances, a different variable, you know, in an alternate universe where he turns right slightly instead of left, Yancy gets behind him a little bit earlier and puts that rear naked choke in a little bit earlier, and that fight is over, and Hadzovic loses it. Right? So that's how close he was to losing that fight because of that strategy. That's what I mean. I'm not criticizing him because I think he's a bad fighter. I think he's excellent. I just think if you can't make that correction, mid-fight, like, you need to reevaluate what you're doing. All right. Well, that's all of them. That's all, folks. No fights next weekend. No UFC fights next weekend. But, Lomachenko. Lomachenko fought. Boy, did he look good. I would say he looked like vintage Lomachenko, but really he just looked like how he normally does. He fought Masayoshi Nakatani. Nakatani is the guy who went 12 rounds with Teofimo Lopez. And Teofimo, got the decision win over Nakatani, but Nakatani had his moments, right? Wait, right? Yes. No. Yes. Yeah, so Nakatani, and he's also the bigger guy, so he looked okay for a little bit. But Lomachenko just moving around like a freaking wizard, like he's in the Matrix, how he normally looks. I really want to see him fight Lopez again. Because Lopez, okay, first of all, Lopez is a bigger dude. Lopez, I think Lomachenko just didn't look like himself in that first fight. There was something wrong. And maybe that was Lopez's style, and that's why. But something was just weird. I just want to see that fight again. I want to see if Lopez is actually better or if it was just Lomachenko having a bad night. So, anywho, yeah, that was it. That was it for the fights that I mean, like I said, Kayla Harrison won. Cool beans. I think she won. Yeah. She got an arm bar in the first round. Yeah, I'm not crazy. That did happen. Yep. And Anthony Pettis got a loss again. Anywho. I think that's it. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. I know this was a shorter one. In 2 weeks, we have the Conor McGregor Dustin Poirier match, number 3, the trilogy fight. We'll probably break that down next weekend because there aren't any fights next weekend to go over. So we'll talk about that. That's pretty much it. Yeah, thank you guys so much. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment down below. Please let me know what you guys think about the video, what you guys thought about the fights. If you got any comments, anything about it said, like anything was crazy, wrong, stupid, you disagree with, or anything you liked and you want to talk about, please. At Super Lunch Bros on Twitter. And that's about it. I really appreciate y'all. Have a great day.